Good day, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another installment of the Sept of Howling Winds. Today, Jong-Lee is currently on a rooftop waiting for Veronica to make her appearance. He's kicked down a emergency ladder so she can make it up the stairwells without having to go through the usual climb that he does. On the rooftop, there happens to be himself dressed in more casual clothes for once. He's in his workout t-shirt, but he's not in his workout pants. He's in a nice set of jeans considering the weather. He has a basket full of something to eat and snack on, though that has not been revealed yet, and some beers in a cooler nearby. How he got the cooler up there probably has something to do with the way he gets around the city. So that said, the scene is open and he is waiting for Veronica.
Which Veronica makes her way up the ladder. She happens to have like trip pants with the like open pockets, tank top. She makes her way up the ladder.
Well, once he sees her come over the edge from the stairs, he will motion for her over.
She comes over. She chose to be smart. She's not bringing her cleave with her, so she's not questioned by the cops.
As they are in California, Jong-Lee is also, just like last time he was on the rooftop, completely unarmed. I believe it's traditional to offer food and beverage when you're inviting someone over to a meetup.
She nods as her way of saying thank you.
He'll open it up and toss her one of the beers. It's just a regular Budweiser.
She opens it.
He'll open his, lift it up in his left hand. So, I guess I should begin since I invited you here. I have been gathering the reconnaissance, talking to as many members of the Sept as I've been able to. I haven't spoken with everyone yet, but I've gotten a good basis of understanding of how most of the groups are operating. And most of the individuals as well.
You have her attention.
As you probably figured out so far, we have two major weaknesses. One, a lack of coordination, as we've discussed before, though it runs apparently deeper than even I expected. Most of us seem to be individualistic fighters. We don't have a solid base of coordination. There is an expectation of that coordination, but there is no explicit guidelines of how everyone expects someone to act. So our perceptions in the fight will likely be focused more on what we are doing individually, less pack tactic oriented.
She nods like this is exactly one of the problems that she's been seeing.
The second problem I believe everyone has identified so far is Coraline is incapable of handling herself in any scenario or situation.
And some of that has to do with her treatment from the previous Sept she was on.
The other part is how to train her to fight that will allow her to get around her disability, but stick with the sensibilities that she personally has.
There's a couple of ways. She mentioned somebody wants to help her with her legs so she can move more. Another glasswalker. The second way, she is a Thayard, so she could sit in the back and have spirits fight for her.
I agree. However, not all situations allow for that, nor is she apparently subtle in how she could do that.
No, she's not.
So we need to teach her some subtlety. That will require a crescent moon, however.
I know a few that could teach her. That are crescent moons. There's one in my pack, Selenia, and there's another glasswalker named Sasha. She was a former Silverfang.
I am familiar with Sasha. Unfortunately, I don't believe Sasha's techniques would benefit her in a quick way, if that makes any sense at all.
It does. She has a different method. Sasha has a different method, and she is very busy with her line of work.
Exactly. That brings me to the next troubling issue. She doesn't seem to have any understanding of the city. I have more of an understanding than she does, and I'm very bad for a glass walker.
She ponders over your words. Hmm. Possibly as an idea, we should have some more. We should have other people learn about the cities as well.
And I think I know the perfect expert for that. Our newest member of the Sept, Shameless Troll.
Oh, her. Yes, she would be perfect.
As I'm not in a position to make the request of her, as we have neither familiarity or a rank situation, would that be something you'd be interested in? Strikes with lightning, Raya.
Okay, out of game. Could you rephrase that? Like, you two want to make a pack? You're saying, or you two want to train?
No, I'm saying that I lack any authority nor familiarity with her to make a request for her to train others in the Sept.
Oh, to request her to do that. Yeah, I
Yeah.
could do. I could see about doing that.
Now, I've learned about her fighting style. Cop shooting.
Oh, yes.
She has basic police training with a firearm. So she knows what she's doing with it, and she knows it in a more professional way than myself.
Also, if she's a police, she might have certain training with socialization.
I don't think she's actually an officer. I believe that someone related to her had the training.
Okay, that makes sense.
That said, when it comes to um, close combat, she does not. She prefers to avoid that, and she prefers everyone she associates with to avoid that. Loss of Guru life weighs heavy on her mind.
Something must have happened.
Perhaps, or it could just be an issue of numbers.
Could be that too. I mean, that's reasonable.
Then that brings me to the next part. So, calls the heart to dance.
Which with him, he's a alpha of another pack.
The Silent Guardians, an
Yeah,
ironic name.
which they're not so silent.
And for Guardians, they operate quite often outside of the set borders.
They follow a panther, so a few times they go to the rainforest.
Which they've mentioned to me, or he mentioned at least, that his that Panther asks them to plan.
I did get an invite to help him, my pack to help him with the Amazon, so a few times they do have to go to the rainforest. So it means there's a few times they'll be operating outside the sept.
True. Though I have very little. I do not believe Calls the Heart to Dance nor I operate in the same methodology.
No.
He claims that they plan before they jump into action. And yet, he is very defensive of the way that his pack operates.
I'm not surprised with that. You could tell with her body language that she understands like there's certain habits that even though they mean well, they're careless.
I couldn't get a promise out of him that he would operate in a discreet fashion were we to ever work together.
They're not discreet at all. Not at the moment. That's something they need to learn. And her face like just becomes a little bit more serious on that.
No plan that any of us put forward is going to survive if one link in the chain decides they're not going to adhere to it should they believe they see a better way.
There's a few ways around that. Since they do go to the Amazon, we could just use them to see if they can get allies to come here. And then, if anything, they could be distracted while we focus more on the people that can work together.
True, but they are guardians of the Sept. An attack on our borders, should they be here, will be responded to first by them, or even any basic intrusion, if I'm not mistaken.
That's something we can bring up to Gabby as the worm foe. But that is something to be concerned about.
Which I had a potential solution, because I mean them no ill will. I think that their talents would be better served if they were not directly guardians so much as just another pack, if that makes sense.
Yeah, if they didn't have the guardian position.
They would be able to operate more freely in their I believe they claim to be a search and rescue pack.
They are.
So that would give them more freedom to operate there. And second, it would allow perhaps more diplomatic packs, which he claims to have a great deal of diplomatic skill, and I am no half moon, so perhaps my judgment on the matter is biased, he says with a half smile.
They have a lot of maturing to do as a pack. They're fairly new.
So I've been told. And that brings me to another, perhaps new but old member of the Sept, from what he was telling me in our one discussion. It was Lost Smile.
Yes, Lost Smile's been getting a lot of attention.
The traditionalist who does not believe he is a traditionalist. The conservative who does not see himself as conservative.
And he's been getting the other Geta Fenris and the Sept more united.
He also is, I believe the phrase, a tactical nuclear weapon.
He's all about tactical stuff. Though his name also indicates something else is going on with him. There's certain things he's very serious with in terms of wanting to make sure everyone's ready.
Well, I believe that he's on the right path to putting us in a more militaristic mindset. Lost Smile Raya does though does not seem as flexible as certain other tactical minds are.
He does have a one-track mind. Which at one point I'll be talking to him as well.
I believe that he will, at least in some unofficial capacity, be seeking some sort of wormfoe-like position at the rate he is going, should a conflict break out.
I can definitely see him doing that. At the moment, it looks like he's more interested in the military rather than the leadership. He'll only go for the leadership if he feels that the military is not being handled correctly.
Considering how the military situation is in our sept right now, I think that is a sooner rather than later situation.
Yeah.
We are in a good way when it comes to our outreach and our spirituality, perhaps. That's the next thing. The defenses for the sept seem a little tame.
I'm going to be working on that with the umbral half.
I guess that brings me then to open wounds, as the last person that I've gotten some detailed information about.
Oh, her. She usually keeps to herself.
But there's a lot that can be said by what is not said.
There is.
I think if I had to rank her, she is probably tactically is probably right behind me. But in a combat situation of all the Cleath, I believe that she is somewhere closer to the middle of the pack.
I'm rather curious what pack she will consider joining if she joins one, or if she's going to go solo.
Perhaps she'll join the Silent Guardians, for they are both silent and they guard things. As an aside, that is the first time Jong-Lee has actually laughed so far.
Out of game, that's a good thing. It means he's comfortable around Veronica.
I would recruit her myself, however, I believe that her goals and mine, while not opposed, are not aligned either.
No, they're not. The one thing she does need to learn is to watch what she says. She got in trouble with one of my pack members. She doesn't hide what she thinks of metas. She doesn't have a good point of view of them. And one of my pack members challenged her one to a stare down.
That's a strange contest to go toe to toe with her. Did she lose?
She did.
Interesting.
I'd like to hope that believes that it makes a point across to watch what you say about the other breeds.
One should always be guarding their tongue,
Yeah.
lest it get cut out. I wouldn't, for instance, walk up to Lost Smile and ask him to smile for me.
I would be surprised if he let somebody get away unscathed.
Well, considering my skill at conversation, perhaps he would find me amusing.
Possibly. I did see him try to joke the other day with the new glasswalker you told me about.
Ah, so he also has met Shameless Troll.
Yeah.
Well, it's good to see he hit it off well with someone at the Sept.
Yeah, it looks like he doesn't talk to too many people, but they were having a big conversation.
He talks a lot more about others when he's talking to someone.
Oh, I've noticed that.
I would almost assume he was a grandchild of Thunder by the way he disassembles.
Shadow Lords operate very differently than some of the methods that he does.
Oh, very true. When it comes to everything other than conversation, yes.
Yeah, but he does tend to avoid anything about himself.
Well, if those two work together, perhaps they'll form a pack.
Perhaps.
I believe that Coraline, is a pack that would help her in the short term. If we're looking at the long term, I think Lost Smiles and Shameless Troll would both be good examples of someone to help bring her up to, I believe they would call it regulations.
It looks like they had an interest in getting her to get better into fighting and such.
So that
Personally,
could.
personally, I've been making sure she stops apologizing for everything.
Well, that is a good starting place. The other two, though, I think encouraging her to join a pack with them, even if it was for the short term, would be a step in the right direction. At that point, I believe that would leave only Sasha outside of a pack, and myself, of course.
Sasha might be interested in what you're doing.
She showed some interest, but we'll see. Worst case, it comes down to just me without a pack, and you've seen how effective I can operate on my own.
Yes. And there are tag along totems that you could pick, so
I don't think that would be necessary. I can coordinate well with almost anyone here. That's the first thing I've learned. So if you need to pair me with anyone, consider me. Even though I don't have a pack status, I could easily operate with any group here. Whether it's talking, I can adapt to that style, gathering intelligence, or even I would prefer not to, brawl. I would be more than capable of adapting to everyone else's style. With the obvious exception, of course.
you are very adaptable, which is a very good thing.
I am also not very easily distracted like certain other members might be.
Which is one reason I'm talking to you.
Tactically, one of the things that I believe we all suffer, well, most people at the Seps are suffering from would be someone who was less direct at engaging us.
That is a problem, yeah, like that part. Are you referring to the alpha or just like the sept in general?
I'm referring to our baseline members at the edges. I don't know about the elders, what they're capable of, their feats of detection, but it seems that even I have can be caught off guard, of course. That said, I'm better at adapting to that. My training allows me to survive. I believe Lost Smiles can also survive, though I believe survival is an underestimation of just the amount of carnage that his ambushers would be facing.
Yeah.
And the grandchildren of Thunder is your tribe, and I believe, Raya, that you know more than well what you're capable of.
And we're working on the unity thing with the different tribes around here. So this way people can work more cohesively.
Tribally, I believe that there are very few issues. Um, I agree with you still, though, that it's mostly the pack level.
It is. And I mean, I feel like we can, if they get more united or unified with a better purpose, then people can coordinate better and then we'll be able to accomplish more. Because right now, it's just every pack wants to do too many things and they're spreading themselves out too thin. And some of the concerns that you mentioned with blind guardians, I believe everyone's kind of doing that if they're not careful. Because it leaves an opening. Whereas if you get a few packs settling certain major problems together, we could take out a serious threat, as well as with the different tribes, people have different ideas of how to approach it.
Hmm. As much as I would like to help Mammoth directly right now, perhaps then there's a better option for me to pursue.
She raises an eyebrow.
We don't have a single pack here who's dedicated to the idea of being a backup assistant as needed. Place us here. A jack of all trades type of pack, perhaps.
That would be very useful.
The question is, what spirit to petition for that, and who would be interested in forming such a group?
I mean, you could always do a howl and mention either convey your message or do it in a subtle manner. That's how I got my pack together.
I prefer a subtle one. Getting to know each individual personally has a certain benefit over mass howls.
It does. I'm not sure what spirits that your totem for cockroach has under his wing that might cover the jack of all trades stuff.
Well, the vast majority I can think of fall under a more cunning bent. I mean, I would normally say coyote, however, it's coyote.
Yeah. And there's already a pack that follows Coyote, so it might be a good idea to get something different.
Very true. It is always hard to know who to approach for what. Something I could discuss with individuals who are seeking a pack, but I, again, don't believe the vast majority of people in our sept are eager to leave their current packs, which is admirable.
Well, a lot of people, when they join packs, they develop a bond, so it becomes like a second family.
Not something one should leave easily or lightly.
No.
Jong-Lee will sip his beer, pondering this. Operationally, I guess a pack could repurpose itself, rededicate itself to a different goal. There are a few packs that maybe that would be in their interest.
There might be. Or they have goals that allow them to be flexible.
True. Like your own.
Yeah. Which out of game, Veronica's pack is fighting corruption and improving sept relationships.
Yep, I've seen the pack write up now, so
You are smart. Most people don't do that. They'll be like, "What packs are these?"
well because you guys don't have it on a files thing. So I actually I took a gamble and a guess, and I went through your Facebook posts until I found the pack list, which was on one post that's like buried way towards the beginning.
Oh yeah.
So, but I did look through it, and it hasn't been updated in a while
Yeah.
because Silent Guardians are still listed as to be announced on a lot of stuff. And I was like, oh boy. So I'm hoping that gets updated soon. I will press Lindsay for that.
Yep.
Anyways, back to character. That being said, your pack happens to be one of the largest.
It is. And we also have a Farah that joined us.
That I've been told. I believe they're called the Bastet.
Yes. One of them found out because I improved sept relationships that I had no issue working with Farah. So they developed an interest.
And it's one of the most massive packs of the Sept, yes?
At the moment, yes.
Well then. Seems you're in a good position to perhaps make future policy. You wouldn't happen to have any ambitions I should be aware of, Raya?
I'm planning to get other packs to talk to other packs at the moot.
At the moot.
Yeah. I mean, moots, you could talk about certain things. I figure everyone's there. It'll make a big deal. It'll make it where people have to act civil, but also they can be disputed.
May I make a suggestion?
You may.
Bring the alphas only. That way the alphas can bring back what you say to their packs,
Mm-hmm.
maintains the hierarchy, but it also will keep the voices and the shouting down to a dull howl.
That does make sense, and it will make it where there's less bickering.
And then conversely, we can have all the remaining members of the packs perhaps mingle, spend some time with each other, get to know each other.
And it does help with coordination when we get to know each other, because then we know each other's strengths and weaknesses.
with a
So,
couple of, he says, making a knife hand with his left hand, secrets.
indeed. Out of game, you don't want everybody hearing what you're doing. Though Petra brought up an amusing idea. Hey, we're gonna do a secret mission in Erebus. Black smile. It's just trying to tell you, push him in the water.
So, another thing that I was thinking about, how about some coordination in the form of pack exercises? What if we held a series of trials, put some sort of prize out there, and had each pack compete against each other in different tests? That way they could learn firsthand what each group is capable of, and perhaps develop some new tactical maneuvers.
That could work. The only problem I would see is if it's renown base, some may be either reluctant if they feel that they're not going to get the renown they deserve, or they don't want people knowing weaknesses.
Well, that is why, as I'm too far below, it would be too high above my station. Perhaps someone of greater renown would be able to convince an elder, perhaps an Adrin, an Athro, a Wormfoe of some kind, to host them. At which point, to decline would be a grave loss of renown and face.
It would be.
Jong-Lee gives a slight shrug, but those are just words.
And it is, if we do see them, that means also elder members, if they see potential, they can fix these things.
Well, that would be my thoughts as well. And if a person of higher renown were to make the suggestion to the elders, I believe then that I believe then that it would be advantageous to perhaps their own progression.
It would.
Then Raya, keep the idea, it's yours. I don't need anything in exchange.
Out of game? Wow.
I hope all the information that I've gathered, suggestions I put forward, and my beer has been of use.
It has been, and we'll be keeping in touch. Who knows? I might you might be working with my pack one day.
Well, I believe that if your idea pans out, all of us will be working with each other in some capacity, much more frequently.
Indeed.
By the way, I will warn you in advance that Calls the Heart to Dance and I may be having a more official challenge in the near future, depending on how we need to better ourselves for coordination's purposes.
She gives you a look like you have her attention, and as well she's curious how that's going to pan out.
He gives another shrug. Just a way for us to get to know each other better. But of course, since I would be the one challenging him, I wouldn't know how it would play out. And I find that to be the best part of this entirely. I'll learn more about him and a way for us to work together by seeing what he considers to be a fair challenge. Especially after I learned that they left their alpha ship up to a coin toss challenge.
Oh, geez, that does not surprise me.
I take it that they've done similar things before?
They're very random, I feel.
You work with a Bastet. Is Panther a spirit of randomness?
Panther's not a spirit of randomness, but cats are more about being powerful and cunning. And the thing is, with Panther, it's like one of the reasons they picked it is so they could work with the Farah too. Because werecats do look favorably on packs that have cats in them.
Or apparently follow a cat.
Yeah.
So they were inspired by your excellent example, but only half of it.
Pretty much.
And I thought my tribe was full of the radical ones. Well, enjoy the food. Let's have another beer and perhaps we can relax to those sounds of the city for now.
Okay. Cheers.
Clinks the beer cans, and I think that's a good place to end scene.
Yep.
All right. Thank you, players, for playing. Thank you, watcher, for watching. And so concludes another game. Later.